Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at this year's 2013 Detroit Jazz Festival here in downtown Detroit. a.k.a. jazz master and vocalist Sheila Jordan is returning home to her roots and some great ensembles. In fact, she performed last night with the Allen Broadbent Trio with strings, in addition to this afternoon with Jerry Allen and many alumni from the city of Detroit, including Robert Hurst, J.D. Allen, George Bohannon, as well as the legendary Kareem Wiggins. I sat down with this a.k.a. jazz master and talked about her roots here growing up in Detroit, how important the music and the icons that came out of this city has contributed to this music, and we talked about her illustrious career. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of Miss Sheila Jordan, live here at this year's 2013 Detroit Jazz Festival here in Detroit, Michigan. Congratulations on coming home to Detroit, playing with Allen Broadbent and his trio with strings, as well as Jerry Allen and the Homecoming Band. How does it feel returning home to your home soil, just performing all to your friends?
I got nostalgic. I started remembering all the good times, not the bad times, not all the hateful racial prejudice at the time when I was growing up there. And just to see people mingling together and getting along and enjoying the music, and they were a beautiful audience. I was very, very moved and very touched.
I'm going to tell you, you said moved and touched. I think everybody was just, when I was sitting down watching and shooting, you couldn't hear a pin drop when you sang with those strings.
Oh, really? Well, wow, that's beautiful. I just felt the people were with us, I felt that they could hear these beautiful arrangements that Allen Broadbent did, He's a killer when it comes to everything. He's just an all-around musician, and I just love him dearly. And it was a thrill. First of all, it's always a thrill to go back home again. I was there a year ago for Don Was, his Concert of Colors, and we all did one tune and recorded it for Blue Note. I don't know when it's coming out, but that was thrilling because all my friends were there and they were jumping up and screaming and running up to the stage, and I said, oh my God, I feel like a rock star. But getting back to the festival this year, it was incredible. the way that people accepted what we did, you know, and I was very touched and very moved.
Tell me about the set with Alan. How did you guys get together for this collaboration? And then, because you've sung with strings before, how hard or how easy was it to perform this type of set at a spur of the moment for a weekend like this?
Well, what happened was many years ago, I recorded Alan Broadbent with strings. I mean, I asked him to do some string arrangements. At that time, he wasn't so keen on it. You know, that's many years ago. I think I might have been the first string arrangement. What he did for me might have been the first. But I know that he wasn't doing it at the time. And I said, oh, Alan, please, can't you just consider? And he said, okay. So he was living in California at the time. So he sent me some cassettes. We had cassettes at that time. And I listened to these arrangements and I said, oh my God, I knew I did the right thing. I knew this was a good choice. And he, you know, I don't know. I had wanted to do string quartet years ago and nobody would they just wouldn't accept it. The record companies, you know. Nobody was interested in it. And I don't push myself. But the record companies that I was involved with at the time said, no, I don't think so. And then Stan Getz came out. And I said, see, it can be done. So then I really got into it. So this might have been one of the first jazz vocal string quartet arrangements, or recordings, I should say. And that was with Alan. And Muse at the time, Joe Fields, who had Muse, which is now High Note, but he was all for it. He was great. He brought Alan here, and we went in the studio and recorded. Unfortunately, we didn't perform it. You know, there was no place to perform it. But I'm not a pusher. I don't have an agent, so, you know, whatever. But here we are, here we are today doing this wonderful 18 strings, I think it was. Right. That was Chris's idea, Chris Collins. He's a great guy. He loved it. He loved it. He sent me the most beautiful email, even called me on the phone. He's a great guy. But, and so here I am doing strings. So I have this one agent that I asked him if he would be interested in booking me and Alan in the strings, and he said absolutely. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do it again somewhere.
Also, you had the honor of playing with some of Detroit's luminaries. I mean, you were one of the great grand luminaries of that Jerry Allen homecoming band. What was it like playing with Jerry and George Bohannon and J.D. Allen?
Well, I love Jerry because I really got to know Jerry a little better when she came up to Jazz in July. She taught piano there in the jazz workshop for 2 weeks. And, I'd known her and met her and thought she was a lovely person, love her music, love her playing. And the fact that she would even think to include me was a big honor, That was a big honor for me. So I was happy, It was great. I loved it, I really loved singing with her and the guys. They were great.
When we walk side by side like brothers, oh glory will stand up in world, and Gabriel will blow as he never has blown before. There be fair weather together, side by side. It would never end. Head would die. Love would win. Go forth, hero. Peace on earth and goodwill
congratulations on many fronts. Happy 85th birthday.
Wait until November. If this is out by November, yes.
And also, we have to celebrate your new autobiography, which is years in the making. And you're still actually making history. What took so long for you to write a book that was so passionate about your life?
Well, everybody was always after me because, I would start telling these stories about Bird and, and the scene and Detroit and growing up with Tommy and Barry and Kenny. And, I was always telling these crazy stories. And everybody used to say to me, well, a lot of people anyway, not everybody in the world, but a lot of people said, why don't you write a book? These are great stories. I think people would love to read them. They're sad, they're funny, they're nostalgic. Why don't you write a book? I said, oh, I can't write a book. I just couldn't do it. So then I met this woman from California who loved my music. She's a singer herself, and she offered to write this book. She had never written a book before, but she said, I'll take it on. And I said, okay. I said, what do I have to do? She said, all you have to do is answer questions when I ask you and sort of like talk about things, and I'll take care of the rest. And her name is Ellen Johnson. I think I said her name was Ellen Johnson. And so she's been very diligent in getting this book. So we have a publisher. I think it's a Detroit publisher. How about that? Scarecrow Publications. I believe they're from Michigan. I think so. Wouldn't that be wild?
Right.
Oh, my God. So, yeah. So there's stories in there. There's chapters on. I stayed away from, love life. Lovers in that. I don't need to talk about lovers, The only time I mention them if they were nice people, because I had a lot of rotten ones. So I'm not going to talk about the losers, I don't give them the time of day, So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. I think people will enjoy it. Then there's a whole chapter also on my teaching, and there's a whole chapter on the racial prejudice that I grew up with, and there's a whole chapter on my childhood living in poverty in Pennsylvania. So the coal mining area, my God. There's just a lot of different, and interviews, interviews with people. Thank God I got an interview, or I should say Ellen got an interview with Frank Foster before he died. And he was my first boyfriend in Detroit. And then she also got an interview with Sonny Rollins. So it's hard to get Barry Harris. And there's a real funny story in there about Barry Harris. So since he's unavailable, then I told the funny story about, it's funny and it's sad, but it's a good story, a true story. So that's in there. So, there's different interviews with people who have known me for a long time, and I don't know, I think it'll be interesting. I hope it will be, I hope it gives courage and strength to people out there trying to keep this music alive. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to be a diva. I don't want to be treated royally. I was shocked when they gave me the NEA, a Jazz Masters Award. I said, are you kidding? I thought the guy was a marketing guy, because when I answered the phone, I had just come in from Toronto, a week in Toronto, and I thought the guy was like from media marketing, selling something. Sheila Jordan. They wait a while, and then, hello, is this Sheila Jordan? I said, yes. Are you Sheila Jordan? Yes. What do you want? I thought it was one of these guys, ready to hang up. He said, this is Wayne Brown from the National Endowment for the Arts. Oh, I said, oh my God, Wayne, I'm so sorry. I thought you were one of those guys selling something. So he laughed, and but that was funny. But, I almost fell off the chair. I swear to God, I was in shock. Me? Why me? I think I said, why me? Why me to him? I think he said, why not you, or something like that. I don't know. But what an honor. Oh, my God. Brian, what an honor, Whew. Can't believe it.
Casting a light to you, the moon was shining bright just one night. The time I first saw you, you set my soul on fire. My hopes were higher, for I had you, and you had me too. Oh, babe, let's put our past behind us and live about you. The future stands to reason, I know. At first it was a keen dear to ease the hurt and pain dear, until the pool got too deep. I started swirling circle, I stood there just smiling in your eyes. It's the thing that drowned me, and so I have to confess, I love you and I want you, so baby think it over, over. You are so terrific, I gotta be specific. Hey baby think diddle ya diddle diddle ya diddle diddle diddle.
Sheila, you have some very, very important Detroit roots, which stem from really the first time you heard Bird at a burger joint when you were in high school. Tell me about the very, very feeling that you heard when you heard Bebop do Bird.
Well, there was as you said, there was a hamburger place where we went to for our lunch when I was in high school. And I went to Cass Tech originally, and then I went back over to Commerce because that was a commercial high school where I could learn how to type and shorthand. But I never took shorthand. I didn't like it. But I learned how to type and, stuff like that. Because I had a feeling, hey, you've been taking care of yourself most of your life, so you better prepare. And I did, and I'm glad I did. It was a great school. But we used to go down and have our sodas and our hamburgers, and there was a jukebox in this one place we hung out. And I was always playing music because I love music. I was always singing, I sang since a little kid. And I saw this one thing on there. It said Charlie Parker and his Reboppers. Reboppers. Whoa, now's the time. I said, I wonder what that is. That sounds kind of interesting. It's strange. Reboppers? What is that? So I put the nickel in. That's how much it was. Put the nickel in, pushed it, heard 4 notes. I swear to God, my whole life changed. I was like, I said, that's it. I didn't know what kind of music I wanted to do. Then I heard that, and I said, this is the music I'll dedicate my life to. This is it. Charlie Parker and his Reboppers. About 2 years ago, I was doing a concert in Connecticut outdoors, well, actually in a tent. And a friend of mine, Peter Bodge, came backstage before I went on. He said, I got something for you. And I said, what is it? He said, well, open it up. It was, he had it wrapped up. And I said, I said, I'll open it after the concert. I don't, so I can really enjoy whatever it is you gave me. He said, no, open it now. So I opened it up. You know what it was?
What?
It was it makes me emotional. It was a 78 record of Charlie Parker and his Reboppers, Now's the Time, framed. That first record. oh my God, I started to really cry. I was so emotional. I said, oh man, I can't go on. And a little voice said, shut up and get out there and sing. You know, that's what Bird wants you to do. So I did. But I have it in my house. It hangs on my wall next to my piano, along with all my Bird pictures. People come up to my house, they say, man, you really must like this guy. Or who is this guy? You know, if they don't know anything about the music, like the plumber, you know, or somebody comes to fix something in the house. Boy, you must really like this dude. I said, I love him. I said, he's the reason I'm alive today. He's the reason I have this house. He bought this house. Through his music, I was able to make money from singing and buy a house.
You know, Sheila, in the 50s, when you moved to New York, you married his former piano player.
Yep.
And Bird and you guys had a real strong friendship. Tell me about the misconception that people have about Charlie Parker, because Parker was more than just one of the innovators of bebop, but he was a real strong presence as far as his technique on the saxophone.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know. I think Bird was just I don't know. To me, he was some kind of an angel. I mean, I never saw anybody play or heard anything like that in my life, and haven't today either. I don't hear anybody like Bird. Bird to me was like he's just off on his own somewhere. I don't know where he came from. All I know is he came and he went. He left us early, obviously for a reason. 34 years old, for God's sakes. He became like my big brother. He really encouraged me, you know. The misconception about Charlie Parker is that he was out there getting everybody high on heroin. That's not true. That is not true. Bird talked to me about using drugs and stuff. He said, don't do that, Sheila. Don't ever do that, you know. Of course, there was a point in my life when I didn't listen, you know. But that's neither here nor there. But I remember one time he came up to the loft. He was always in my loft. I had a bed that I called Bird's bed. And when he needed to rest, he'd come up and, you know, and there was nothing romantic going on between us. I was like his little sister. But anyway, at this time, the day that he came up, Duke was there, and Duke was nodding out. He was high. And Bird looked at him and he said, man, didn't you learn anything from me? You know, so that was pretty heavy. And I always remembered that, and I always thought, you know, all these cats that say Bird made them do it. Yeah, right? What is that? Something made me do it. There was an expression at one time. Bird didn't make anybody do it. If anything, he was totally against that. So, you know, as far as I don't know how Bird could play the way he did, because he had a terrible sick disease, you know. Addiction is a disease. It's nothing that, you know, people like shy away. Say, oh, he's a junkie. Oh, she's an alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. We didn't want to be those kind of people. You know, I'm a recovering alcoholic. You think I wanted to be an alcoholic, even though I didn't drink every day, even though I kept a job every day? I couldn't touch alcohol. And the same with Bird. I mean, he had a cunning, baffling, powerful disease, and that's what it was. It's like having cancer or anything. And but still, through all of this, I never heard him play a bad note. Never heard him play a bad note. His music was always there. It was just like all of a sudden this whole different energy came out of him. It was incredible.
What was your take the very first time you heard Charlie Parker with strings?
Well, when I read about it in one of the magazines, I guess, I said, oh my God, what are they doing to Bird? Oh, that's terrible. And then I heard it. I heard Bird playing If I Should Lose You. Oh my God. Actually, I have an arrangement that I dedicate to Bird on If I Should Lose You. Well, the first time, and I did hear them. I heard them in Brooklyn I think it was at Soldier Myers Club. And it was, what was that guy's name, the conductor? He was famous. I forgot his name.
Okay.
That's terrible. I'm
It's
having
all right.
a senior moment. Mitch Miller.
Okay.
I think it was Mitch Miller. He conducted in Bird with Strings. And we were over in Soldier Myers, and there we were in this little club, and there's Bird up there playing with strings. It was beautiful. Actually, the fact that I went into strings actually started with Bird. Hearing Bird, I thought, oh my God, that's where I first got the idea later on in life. I said, ooh, Bird with strings. I'd like to do something with strings. And that's when I talked about it earlier about, everybody thought I was crazy. Well, Bird wasn't crazy, was he?
Said you needed a place to stay. Oh, well, I said that's fine with me. And though I didn't know that you were above my fine, my chum, now that it's plain to see, we could have been so very happy together, but I thought that it would be just you and me. I didn't know you planned to bring all of your family. You brought your sister and her husband, her 7 children, and she's got one on the way. You brought your uncle and your aunt and 2 cousins and their dog. It ain't my shoe today. Your mother and your brother, they're not so bad. And as for Dad, well, he's alright. He doesn't like, but tell me, did you really need to bring your wife? Thank you very much. Sheila Jordan.
You were the first recording artist, vocal recording artist on Blue Note Records at the time. Explain your relationship with Alfred Lyon, and also I think George Russell had a lot to do with the fact that you had to get there.
Yeah, George Russell, he's the reason I'm singing. Actually, he put me out there. George Russell heard me at the Page 3. He had a student of his was playing piano, and the student played for us to sing. The singers at the whatever they did, the thing. But Monday night at the Page 3 was jazz night, so we didn't have any of the other acts, like the comedian and the stripper and all that. We didn't have that on Monday nights. And George came down to hear, I think it was Jack Riley, and he heard me sing. And afterwards he came over, he said, "Where do you come from to sing like that?" And I said, "Hell." And he said, "Oh, man, I'd like to visit hell sometime." So he said, "I'd really like to get in touch with you." And I had a feeling that, because I think Jack told me that was his teacher. And so I gave George my telephone number, and sure enough, he called me up, and we became very, very good friends. And I took him back to Pennsylvania, where I grew up, the coal mining area. Where there were no miners working. They were all out of work, and my grandmother was still alive, and we went up to this club to have some beers, and this miner, my grandmother was bragging about us, and I said, "Mom, please, I'm not a star, please. George is a great, is very well known, but I'm not. I'm just, So the miner looked at me, and he said, "Well, you still sing You Are My Sunshine?" I said, "No, I don't do that tune." He said, "Why not?" And George Russell said, "Yeah, why not?" So there was an old out-of-tune upright piano in the corner. So George went over there and started playing You Are My Sunshine for the coal miner, and I was singing it. And my grandmother pushed him off the bench. She actually pushed him. She said, "That's not the way it goes." And so she sat down and she played it, and I sang it with her. And George said she sounded like Thelonious Monk. So we came back. We drove back to New York, and George was living down on Bank Street at the time. I think it was Bank Street in the Village. And he called me up, and he said, I want you to come by and hear something. This was like, a few months later. So I went down, and so he played this incredible music. It was more than an introduction. And then he stopped. He said, okay, sing. I said, sing what? He said, sing You Are My Sunshine. I said, what? He said, sing You Are My Sunshine. I said, are you going to play it for me? He said, no, you're going to sing it by yourself. I said, I can't. He said, yeah, you can. I know I can't. No, I'm not going to do that. He said, why not? I said, I'm not going to do it. He said, please do it for the miners. So I started singing it. And he did an arrangement of it. Have you ever heard it? Well, and you know what I'm talking about, all these little da-da, all these but so we recorded it, and it was quite out there at the time, and but it was for the coal miners. We wanted to call it a drinking song, but we couldn't get the okay, so it remained You Are My Sunshine. Yeah. And then George, of course, after hearing me that time at the Page 3, also paid for a demo that I did. He had me go into the studio and do a demo, and he took it around. And actually, Quincy Jones was the A&R man at Mercury at the time, and he wanted to record me, but I'd already signed with Blue Note. And I had a beautiful letter from him. He said, I'm sorry that we couldn't do this, maybe next time. Hey, maybe I should get in touch with him now, right? Nah. But I did that recording for Blue Note, and they were very sweet to me, Alfred and Francis Wolf, and I guess I didn't think it was so good, I don't know. I don't listen to myself that much, so I don't know what's good and I don't know what's bad. I just do it. I feel it. That's it. If I listen back, then I'll cut my throat.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at this year's 2013 Detroit Jazz Festival, live here in downtown Detroit. I'd like to personally thank a.k.a. Jazz Master Sheila Jordan for her time, Chris Collins, the artistic director of this year's 2013 Detroit Jazz Festival, Danilo Perez, who is the artist in residence this year, the staff and management at Mack Avenue Records, as well as DL Media. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Sparkling sky.